She is 112 years old. She has outlasted every empire that tried to stop her. She has outlasted most of the men who served on her. She has outlasted both of the world wars that made her famous. And right now, in 2026, she's being brought back to life in a dry dock in Galveston, Texas, and most people have no idea she was ever gone. And the reason she's still here at all, that's the part almost nobody knows. One enemy fleet surrendered in front of her. She flooded herself on purpose during the Normandy campaign to get a better shot at the enemy. She survived 2 world wars and then nearly sank in peacetime from neglect. And she is the last surviving battleship in American history to have served in both, the only one still here to prove it. By the end of this video, you will know the full story of USS Texas, where she went, what she did, and exactly where she is right now. But before we get into it, I'm genuinely curious where in the world you're watching this from. And if anyone here has a connection to USS Texas, a family member who served on her, someone who visited her, anything at all, drop it in the comments. Let's go back to where it started. The USS Texas was commissioned in March 1914, 4 months before the First World War began. She was the most powerful battleship the United States had ever built at the time, the first American battleship fitted with 14-inch guns, the first to mount anti-aircraft weapons, the first to launch an aircraft from her deck. She was built to be the future of naval warfare, and she had barely finished her sea trials when Europe went to war. America stayed out of that war for 3 years. The Texas spent those years running drills in the Atlantic, training crews, waiting. When the United States finally entered in 1917, she crossed the ocean and joined Britain's Grand Fleet in the North Sea, the largest concentration of naval firepower the world had ever assembled, sitting across the path of the German High Seas Fleet. Here's what most people don't understand about what that was actually like. The Grand Fleet and the German High Seas Fleet were both too valuable to risk in a decisive battle. Both sides knew it. A single catastrophic loss could hand control of the sea to the other side and change the entire war. So they circled each other, convoy escorts, patrols in the North Sea in winter, fog and cold, and the constant knowledge that the enemy fleet was out there, just not coming out. The Texas spent months in this limbo, powerful enough to end the naval war in a single afternoon, but never given the chance to. Then, on November 21st, 1918, everything changed. At 3:35 in the morning, the Texas got underway and sailed out to meet the surrendering German fleet. 74 German warships, battleships, battlecruisers, destroyers, steaming in a single column toward the Firth of Forth. The war was over, and the USS Texas was there to watch it end. The Grand Fleet formed 2 lines on either side of the German column and escorted them in. Nobody fired a shot. There was nothing left to fire at. The most powerful navy Germany had ever built was giving itself up, and the Texas was present for every mile of it. She was home by Christmas. Now here's what most people skip entirely, the 20 years that came after. The Texas that left for World War II was not the same ship that came home from World War I. In 1925, she went into dry dock and was converted from coal power to oil, a fundamental change to how she operated, how fast she could be refueled, and how far she could go. She was modernised repeatedly over the following years. New fire control systems, upgraded anti-aircraft weapons, and she was one of the first American warships to receive production radar. Ships that were built after her were already being retired while she was still getting upgrades. She was also part of a test in 1924 that quietly shaped every American warship that came after her. Along with the USS New York, she helped sink an unfinished battleship, the USS Washington, a Colorado-class ship cancelled under the Washington Naval Treaty before she ever fired a shot, and the results drove changes to armour and hull design that protected every American vessel that followed. She wasn't just surviving, she was making the next generation of ships harder to kill. Keep that in mind, because what happens next shows exactly what kind of ship she was. When World War II started, the Texas was 27 years old. By any reasonable measure, a battleship that old should have been retired. Instead, on November 8, 1942, she sailed into her first combat of the new war as part of Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa. She bombarded German and Vichy French positions near Port Lyautey, Morocco. It was the first large-scale American combat operation of the war against Germany in any significant way. The Texas was 28 years old, firing her guns in anger for the first time in her life, opening a chapter of the war that would take her further than anyone expected. But nothing she did in North Africa came close to what happened next. On the morning of June 6, 1944, the USS Texas took up her bombardment position roughly 7 miles off Pointe du Hoc on the coast of Normandy, France. She had been designated the bombardment flagship for the western half of Omaha Beach. The Rangers assaulting the cliffs at Pointe du Hoc were her responsibility. She was 30 years old, and at 5:50 in the morning, she opened fire. In the next 34 minutes, she put 255 14-inch shells into the German positions at Pointe du Hoc. As the day went on and German resistance stiffened, the Texas pushed closer, closing to under 2 miles from shore by afternoon, near point-blank range for a battleship. She stayed on station for days, supporting the troops pushing inland, answering calls for fire on German positions that were pinning down American infantry. On June 7th, word came that the Rangers at Pointe du Hoc were cut off, surrounded, running out of ammunition. The Texas sent 2 landing craft ashore loaded with ammo, food, water and medical supplies. The Rangers sent back 35 wounded men and 27 prisoners. She kept firing until the beachhead was secure. Then she pulled back to England to rearm. And then here's the part that surprises people every time. On June the 15th, she returned to Normandy. By then, Allied forces had pushed farther inland, farther than her guns could reach from a level position. The elevation angle wasn't enough. The targets were beyond her range. So her crew made a decision that had never been made in combat before. They deliberately flooded the torpedo blister on the starboard side of the ship. Deliberately, intentionally letting water into the hull to make the ship list. The Texas tilted 2 degrees, just enough to change the elevation angle of her guns, just enough to reach the targets that had moved out of reach. It was an enormous gamble. A battleship that takes on water doesn't always come back out of it. And they did it anyway, not on the most famous morning of the war, but 9 days later, quietly, when nobody was watching, because the job wasn't finished. In August 1944, the Texas supported the Allied landings in southern France. Operation Dragoon, her guns covering troops pushing up the Mediterranean coastline. By that point, she had been in active combat for nearly 2 years straight. She had crossed the Atlantic multiple times. She was 30 years old and showing no signs of stopping. Then she crossed to the other side of the world entirely. Transferred to the Pacific in late 1944, she arrived in time for the invasion of Iwo Jima in February 1945. What the Texas faced at Iwo Jima was unlike anything she had seen in Europe. The island had been fortified for years. The Japanese had built an underground network of tunnels and bunkers that absorbed enormous punishment and kept fighting. The Texas spent nearly 3 days in continuous bombardment, firing round after round into positions that barely seemed to notice. When the Marines finally went ashore, the Texas stayed close, answering fire support calls from troops fighting for every inch of volcanic rock. Then she moved to Okinawa, where she spent 50 days firing her guns at Japanese positions and fighting off wave after wave of kamikaze attacks. Over those 50 days, she fired nearly 6,000 rounds of anti-aircraft ammunition. Not a single one of those kamikazes touched her. When Japan surrendered in August 1945, the Texas was being prepared for the invasion of the Japanese home islands. She spent the months after the war transporting veterans home instead. She had been commissioned before the First World War began. She was still fighting when the Second World War ended. She is the last surviving American battleship that can say that. So where did she go? She was decommissioned in 1948 and handed over to the state of Texas, the first American battleship ever preserved as a permanent museum ship, and the first declared a National Historic Landmark. She was moored near Houston at San Jacinto, where she sat for the next several decades as a floating piece of history. Millions of people walked her decks. Children pressed their hands against the steel of her gun turrets, not knowing those guns had fired at Normandy. Veterans who had served on her came back in their old age to stand on her deck one more time. She was a place where the war still existed in physical form, something you could touch and stand inside and feel, and the whole time she was slowly dying. The hull that had survived 2 world wars, the North Atlantic, Normandy, Iwo Jima and 50 days of kamikaze attacks, was losing its fight against something far less dramatic: rust. state of Texas lacked the resources and expertise to properly maintain a 27,000-ton warship. Dry docking her, essential for inspecting and repairing the hull, was expensive and complicated and kept being deferred. Salt water found its way in, then more came in. By 2010, the leaks had become serious enough that her hull was sinking several feet lower in the water than it should have been. By 2017, she was leaning 8 degrees to starboard and pumping tens of thousands of gallons of water out of her hull every single day just to stay afloat. The ship that had deliberately flooded herself during the battle for Normandy to keep her guns in the fight was now flooding herself by accident, and there was nobody left to pump her back out. She was closed to visitors. The question being asked was no longer how to restore her, it was whether she could be saved at all. In 2022 the answer came. The USS Texas was towed to the Gulf Copper dry dock facility in Galveston. What they found when they got inside the hull was decades of deferred damage, corrosion that had eaten through steel that had been in place since before World War I. What followed was one of the largest warship restoration projects in American history. More than 700 tons of corroded steel were cut away and replaced. To put that in perspective, 700 tons is roughly the weight of 500 average cars, all cut out of her hull and replaced with new steel, plate by plate. 300,000 hours of labour went into the restoration. The hull was repainted in her World War II era camouflage. A new pine deck was laid across the entire ship. Systems that hadn't functioned in decades were overhauled, and for the first time in 90 years, the hull of the USS Texas was completely leak-free. She floated on her own again. After all of it, 2 world wars, more than 7 decades as a museum, years of flooding and neglect, she was floating again. So where is she now? She is still at the Gulf Copper shipyard in Galveston, where the restoration is in its final phase. Her permanent home will be Pier 15, between the cruise ship terminals, a 10-minute walk from the historic Strand district. The city finalised that lease in 2025. She is expected to reopen as a fully accessible museum in 2027. Here's what makes that worth sitting with for a moment. The USS Texas was at war before the airplane changed warfare. She was still fighting when atomic bombs ended it. She watched Germany's entire navy surrender in 1918 and spent the next 26 years getting ready for the next one. At Normandy, she flooded herself on purpose to get a better angle on the enemy. She fired nearly 6,000 rounds in 50 days at Okinawa, and not one kamikaze touched her. She crossed 2 oceans and fought on 4 different fronts in a single war. She was nearly lost, not to enemy fire, not to a torpedo or a bomb or a shell, to rust and time and neglect quietly flooding in a river while visitors walked past without knowing what they were looking at. The ship that nobody could sink in combat almost sank herself in peacetime, and now she's coming back. The same hull, the same guns, the same ship that watched the German fleet surrender in 1918, that was 7 miles off the coast of Normandy on the most important morning of the 20th century, that was still fighting in the Pacific when the war finally ended, 31 years after she was commissioned. She is 112 years old. There is no other ship like her anywhere in the world. She'll be in Galveston. Go see her.